Welcome back to the Appraisd podcast, Navigating Performance Management, your compass to HR success. I'm Roly, founder of Appraisd, and I've been involved with HR technology for over 12 years. And after speaking with multiple clients and supporting organizations implementing Appraisd, I've come across a wealth of different business and HR needs when it comes to software. One thing I've learned over the years is that the HR team's needs vary immensely, from user-friendly solutions that employees can adopt easily through to sophisticated systems that reflect complex business needs or data requirements. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk to Jessie Schofer, co-founder of Stakkd, to discuss this topic. Now, Jessie is the co-founder of Stakkd, which is an HR tech database that allows HR to discover the right HR tech for their business. She has 13 plus years of a unique experience in corporate startups and even a few unicorns as well, which is amazing. Jessie is known for her unconventional approach to people topics and, of course, is passionate about HR tech. Jessie, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us.
Roly, thanks so much for having me. I'm actually really excited we got here because I know we've had to plan this a few times, so yeah. I'm excited that we made it.
Exactly. It's great to have you, and I've been watching the progress of Stakkd over the last few months as well, and it really looks fantastic. So well done on everything. Now, many people listening may not know what it is. Can you tell us, in a nutshell, what it is and why did you start it?
Oh, that's always the question, why? Well, why kind of came from me being in, people leadership positions in these scale up, spaces where infrastructure, so tech was really, really, really important. We know it even when we're lean operating or scaling, it doesn't matter. Tech is kind of underpins how well a business is going to operate and how you work in the business. And I saw that was a challenge point, finding what tech was on the market, how people go about the procurement process was really a bit broken. And, people would go into a community or a forum and say, hey, what tech is the best? And it's like, that's not really the best way to pick your core infrastructure. So Stakkd is aiming to be the go-to place. So if you think about, I need HR tech or rec tech or something in the people space, you can go to a place and find, the global footprint of the ecosystem and see what's out there and really discover the market to start your assessment from, that really broad view. And then you're not missing anything. You can find all the good stuff and then start assessment from that point of view.
And it's stakkd.tech, right? That's where to find it. STAKKD.tech. TECH. Okay, yes. Excellent. Okay, well, we'll make sure we put the link in the notes.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's just go back to the problem. Okay, so we've got enormous opportunities out there with using HR tech and the right HR tech in the right way. Why is it so hard for HR to choose the right product somewhere? How does it end up where you end up procuring something that's just not right?
It's a good question. I think it stems from a few challenges that I've seen, like common things that I've seen over time, and looking at businesses and how they choose tech, and businesses that, have chosen the wrong tech as well. I think it stems from not understanding what your business needs. I mean, it sounds very simple, but not having a very clear people strategy and people roadmap that includes a tech roadmap and how that delivers on your business strategy is the starting point. So if you don't have that, then how do you even know what to look for? It's like when you recruit someone, if you don't have a job description, you don't know what that person's doing in the business, and you don't know what they're delivering value for on the strategy, how do you hire the right person? Well, it's the same with tech. If you don't know why you're doing it, or you've just gone to an event and seen this tech provider and gone, that's pretty cool, that's not a good reason to start using that tech. I mean, it might sound cool at the time, but it should be really matching what your business needs and the growth and efficiencies or the infrastructure that you need for your business to operate. And I think that step is always missed, absolutely missed. I've seen it as well. I was in a business where I joined and they were like, we're going to scale 150 people per month. And we had the wrong tech. No one had thought about in the business strategy about, is the infrastructure we have suitable for global hiring at scale? And the tech we had wasn't possible. It was, it was not good for international hiring, let alone scaling and frontline worker hiring. So we were at a point where it was like, this is going to make or break the business, having the wrong tech. So it's, it seems like, oh, having the wrong tech, it can't be that bad. You just change it. It's like, actually, it can really stop revenue. It can stop business operations. So we had to quickly put all our energy into getting the right tech so we were able to scale the business. And it's the same when you're environments that aren't scaling. You still need to have the right tech because they're the ones that are going to make sure your business operations are lean, they're productive, they're the ones that add to your workers' day-to-day productivity. They don't take away from it. So there's a lot to be said around having the right strategy and being able to choose the right tech.
And what about scope creep? How does that sort of happen? I think, people will go out and they'll look for a vendor and then they'll discover the vendor does something else as well. And, then they'll go back to the other vendors that were on their short list and say, well, actually, can you do this as well? And then sometimes you end up with this sort of paralysis where you don't choose anything because it's all just too overwhelming.
Well, yeah, it is overwhelming. I think that's the thing. It is overwhelming. There's a lot of tech and there's a lot of cool stuff out there and there's a lot of cool features that products offer. And I think, it comes again back to this, setup. Procurement is, again, something that is, there's procurement as a profession for a reason, because there is a way to do it that will lead to better successful outcomes than not. And I think that piece is something that HR haven't had to be procurement managers. Now they kind of do have to be procurement managers as another thing, right? Another thing you add on top of what they need to do. They have to be able to procure tech properly. It isn't something that you just know how to do overnight. But I think a lot of things fall off with scope creep because it hasn't been, firstly, you need the strategy that we talked about a minute ago. That needs to be clear. So you can really derive what are the features that'll make or break? What is your assessment criteria? And set that up. And actually, we have some templates on how to, so for an assessment criteria that you can find in our resource hub. You can just find it on our website. If you go there, we'll have a resource section. You can just click and it's there. Free templates to use because they are things that people forget to do. They forget to set up the project. They forget to set up the assessment criteria. So you go into these calls and you're not in the driver's seat. But you need to be in the driver's seat and you need to know what you're looking at. And that can help scope creep because at least you know what to find features and things that you need for your business that are important. And everything else is just, a nice to have. But it doesn't mean you're going to then rule out a supplier for the wrong things or rule in a supplier for the wrong things. And I think that's where, a good starting point and, setting yourself up for success in that kind of project structure and defining things out can really, really help.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. When you've got to sort of take control a little bit of the sales demo process as a buyer, right? And to go and make sure you have checked through your full checklist and seen exactly how certain things are done, because most sales demos are geared towards showing off the kind of, I don't know, maybe they're the most flattering parts of the app,
stuff, right?
Yeah.
And actually on demos, it's like going into an interview, as a recruiter. You're choosing a candidate and you go into that and you let the candidate control the interview. And you're going, hang on a minute, there's certain things this business needs to qualify about this candidate before they're going to put them through to the next stage. It's the same when you're going into demo. You're actually looking at something to buy for your business. I mean, you are in the hot seat. You're the one who needs to be, controlling the interview, saying, this is what I need to see for my business, preparing beforehand, knowing who you're speaking to, not just jumping on a call that you booked from the website because you scrolled past them and, oh, that looks interesting. You just booked a demo and suddenly you're in, like you said, these sales pitches and you go, hang on a minute, what am I doing here? So, definitely treating it with, a bit more planning and care will be definitely helpful in that process.
Okay, great. So, some of the aspects of buying tech, obviously there are kind of tech aspects to it, such as security, data. Do HR need to become experts in these things as well?
I mean, no, they don't need to become an expert technically. They need to become aware of technical requirement. And I think that's part of the scoping and the assessment criteria that we talked about earlier. If you're setting that up and you're setting up your project properly, you're going to be engaging your stakeholders, you're going to be talking to your IT department, and you're going to have And trust me, they probably have it. You don't need to ask them too often. They'll tell you what requirements they have. They'll be like, we need SOC compliance, we need ISO, we need GDPR this, and we need, this amount of pen testing, we need evidence of whatever, right? They're going to tell you exactly what they need. They'll have it there. They've probably got it documented as well. So that's criteria that you can easily have a quick call, build a relationship with them, let them know the project's on, and have that ready for your assessment criteria. And if you don't know what it means, just ask them. Like, I didn't know what ISO compliance was when I first started my career. I didn't know what necessarily about GDPR compliance was important to look for in certain systems. You learn that over time by just asking questions. And it's not only IT, it's usually also legal or data, your data, what are they called?
Compliance.
Yeah, compliance and data officer. They also care about these things, and they're going to be on your stakeholder map if you're doing these projects, especially in bigger businesses. And I know it sounds like a lot and it kind of is annoying, but it is part of the process. And at the end of the day, if you just build a relationship, it's not a big deal, because you've built the relationship, you've been transparent, and then people will help you with it anyway. And then you are better placed to ask those questions when you get into those demo calls and check that criteria is met.
That's right. They're not hard things to learn about either, actually.
No.
I think. I think we're all getting a little more kind of conversant on these topics and understanding of international data law and so on.
Exactly. Yeah. It's everywhere now, so we kind of, even if we don't want to, we know about it.
Exactly. Okay, what about this idea of app proliferation, which is where sometimes we speak to people and they say, "Oh, there are just so many apps these days, and we've got apps for everything." Like each division or team or department have got all their own kind of preferred apps, and they've got a whole stack of tech apps, and there's just too many. What would you say to someone who sort of got that complaint?
I mean, I would say the reason people complain about logging in isn't because they're logging in. They're complaining because they don't know the value that app brings to them.
Yeah.
If I'm in sales and I have 10 different apps and it helps me do my job and I understand the value it brings to me, I'm actually more than happy to log into 5 or 6 or 10 different tools to get my day-to-day job done. We've all done it. We've seen it, like you said, in every part of the business. There are, hundreds and thousands of apps you can choose from and tools. And our part of the business, the people part of the business is really starting to just get the equipment that everyone else has. Everyone else has had this tech for years and years, and they've been using 10 different apps daily. We're now starting to go, oh my gosh, we actually can have what other people have to make ourselves as fast and as good and as efficient, and start taking away mundane tasks away, and doing it better. So I don't think that the login is a good excuse. I think it's, if you're not logging in, why? Oh, because I don't like the process, or I don't know what the value add is. If you really dig deep, it's nothing to do with logging in. There's single sign-on authentication now just for just about every single app. Put your Google in and it'll just bing, you're in. Like, you don't have to remember your password.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's about that. I absolutely believe it's about the communication, the transparency, and the value add that you can communicate, and the ease of use. So the ease of use in terms of, you log in, but do they know what they're doing in there? Have they got the training? Is the adoption and change management, has that been well managed? And of course, that's a challenge for HR. Now they're not only procurement managers and project managers, they're now change managers, and they're tasked with a lot of topics on top of, their day-to-day. So I can understand why it sometimes falls off and isn't done perfectly, or even enough. But I think it's something that a big risk and things that business have to look into. But definitely, I don't think that it should stop people having point solutions because of login. I think that would just be a cop-out, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think it's got a lot easier nowadays, right? Because the user interfaces in general are so much better. There's single sign-on. We've got APIs and integrations between all of the systems is so much easier now. It's probably still not perfect, but, it's come a very long way.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think it's one of those, things that you can easily address if you can find the value. And if you can't find the value in the tool, then you probably shouldn't be buying it.
Yeah. I do understand the I can totally understand the fear from an HR point of view, because you're quite often, relative compared with someone in the marketing team buying a marketing tool for their team. In HR, you're generally buying an app that's going to be used by everybody, and so you really feel like you've got to get it right. So
Yeah.
I do understand the hesitation perhaps in some of the kind of nervousness around some of that. But again,
Yes.
most of these apps should let you do a kind of a trial or a POC, like a structured proof of concept or a pilot or something like that, with just a handful of people, fully customized. So I think
Yeah.
you can always ask for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ask. And I mean, the worst case answer you'll get is like, we don't do that, and then
Mm,
they don't do it. But I think this organic, slow, introduction can work. Can be a good way to test the waters of a tool before you make a big commitment. And it can be a way to, also get feedback on the business and get their input and bring them in early and bring them in on that journey. And I think a lot of the time we just forget to incorporate people into the journey.
mm,
So yeah, I really like, your suggestion there. Just start small.
just give it a
Don't
go.
commit to anything yet. Businesses are like, they want their tool in your business. They want it to be
Yeah,
successful. Usually, I have experienced that too. They are willing to, help out and get people in there and looking at stuff.
that's right. The best thing you can get is that when you do a pilot with a small group of people, and then other people kind of get wind of it, and they're like, "Hey, when are we going to get to use
It's
that?
like FOMO.
We really want that." Yeah,
There's a bit of FOMO happening. That's the best. I
yeah,
mean, organic change is always
yeah,
the best. Having champions or a small group, and then
yeah.
everyone's learning from them. It is proven to work.
Okay, what about? I've got a question for you here. So this is about the different factors that HR might weigh up when they're evaluating different solutions.
Hmm.
And actually, I want to kind of pick out one in particular, which is um, whether to choose perhaps the incumbent, a big provider who's been around for years, versus a small niche startup, perhaps that's got a very innovative looking product, but perhaps doesn't have the number of logos on the website, or and all of that. Well, how would you kind of help someone in HR choose between the two of those?
Well, firstly, you have to have deep knowledge of what your business needs, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
So that's the first step, making sure they have clarity on what it is their business actually needs and what they need, not just now, but in the next steps, especially for, if you're a growth company or you're planning potentially to move into growth. And I also have to caveat here, I don't think necessarily you need to have one tool forever in a business. I think
yeah,
actually, if I've been in business long enough now, I know that there isn't one tool that you're going to use from like 0 to 10 years. You're probably going to go through 2, if not 3, maybe even 4 different tooling over a period of time that serves the business at the right stage. So that's the first thing. I would definitely encourage them, know what your business needs. And a consultant can only do so much. The best person to have context about the business is the people in the business. Maybe
yeah,
the consultant or support person or external can help you draw those questions and ask the questions to get that out of the business to help you get the context. That's something that they're generally quite good at. If you're not sure, but definitely having that context is the first step. Second step is, again, having an assessment criteria. How do you know if you should choose apple or pear? They both taste good. They're both fruits. One is maybe shiny, one's a bit dull, but the other one tastes more sweet, then the other is a bit bitter. Like, which is better? Well, does your business need bitter or does it need sweet? Does it need dull or does it need shiny? So it's, again, assessment criteria, must-haves. And I think being open, like discovery, this is where, you probably know the big names because they're everywhere, because they've got marketing budget to be everywhere.
yeah,
And that's why we have Stakkd, because you need to know what is on the market before you can pick the best tool, before you can assess them. So having this broad net, this database that we have, allows people to really understand the market, keep up to date with trends. So they're not just going to those big names. They do have that maybe smaller, more innovative, companies that are there alongside the big names to assess. And then it comes down to, what does your business need and the risk appetite?
mm,
And maybe you really love the smaller, more agile business and they're going to build things. And for your business, that's fine. And the pricing makes more sense. They don't have all the features, but you don't need all the features of that, big provider. Or it could be the other way around. It could be actually all those features the big provider has, despite loving, this new startup stuff. It looks amazing. It's got things that you would love about it, but the must-haves just aren't there. And unfortunately, your business can't accept those right now. So it is hard, but I come back to knowing what you need, having assessment criteria, and knowing the market, knowing what's on the market that you could potentially assess is a good place to start.
Fantastic. Jessie, before we sign off, just tell me a little bit more about some of the other resources that you've got on your website. So you've obviously got this amazing database of providers that's being updated and added to all the time, and it's really, like you say, it's really comprehensive. So if you're out there looking for some tech, you know that by looking at your list, you are taking a comprehensive view at the market. You're not just being swayed by whoever's got the biggest marketing budget. So we've got that. That's brilliant. Tell us about some of the other resources you've got on there.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is put the control back in the hands of the people professionals. So when you're doing these projects, it's always, you never have time. Like, trust me, no one's ever got time for this.
Yeah.
So what we've done is try to make it as fast as possible for you to get from 0 to 80, not to 100, because you've got to do a bit, but we've got templates for project management. So project management hub, where you can put your stakeholders, you can put all your documentation, you can build out your schedule. That's all in Notion. We have some Excel templates on assessment matrices that you can download and add all your criteria, and it'll pop out all of your, assessment once you filled it in. We have a demo questions list, things not to forget in a demo. And we've even got a database of consultants and people we've worked with who, if you need services, you can go out and find some of those as well. So you can find them all in our resource hub on our website.
Yeah, fantastic. It looks great, by the way. So, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, there's the Stakkd.tech website, but are you on other channels as well?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, and I love people reaching out or, connecting with me there. So if you find me on LinkedIn, I'm under Jessie Schofer. You can find me super easy, probably, if you haven't already seen me there. Feel free to reach out. And we're also got a YouTube. You can check us out. We're on most social platforms, but definitely LinkedIn is where you can find me, and Stakkd.tech for the database is probably the best place to go.
Nice one. Okay, well, it was lovely to have you. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me. It was great. Talk soon.
No problem. And to our listeners, please don't forget to follow the Appraisd podcast on all the usual channels, the Appraisd website, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the others. And we'll see you again on our next episode.